A Lifting in Chanukah, one and all. I want to dedicate our learning tonight with thanks to the Perlman and Meisel's Mishpachas. My sponsor tonight, commemorating the yahrzeit of Stuart Perlman. Yisrael David ben Sion Shem Shnav and Aliyah.
Okay.
The yahrzeit is
Third
Tevet, yeah, coming up. So, yeah. Okay, so we're going to continue our learning, and another Hanukkah gift tonight in the learning. For Zot Hanukkah, this Hanukkah presents. This Gemara is a Hanukkah present. Now, it's not going to be obvious for most of this year, but in the 11th hour, I'll connect it to Hanukkah. It's not too hard. The what?
The bloom will fall.
Exactly. So, Chav Dalet Amid, we're on the bottom. We're at the Mishnah. Everybody loves a good story, and Hanukkah, it's good to tell stories. So the witnesses show up, and they say, we saw the old moon in the morning in the eastern sky, and we saw the new moon same day in the western sky. I'm Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, Eidei Sheker Haim. It can't be. It can't be that they're telling the truth. Rashi, right on the bottom of Chav Dalet Amid Bet, right? Reinu Shachar b'Mizrach Adi Yeshana. V'Arvi b'Marav, top of the next page, at a Chadasha. Same day, Eidei Sheker Haim, says Rashi. The Kai Malan Esim v'Arba'a Shai Machsi Sihara. Kaf Pirsha Rabotai. 24 hours, you cannot see the moon between old moon going away and new moon showing up on the scene from the time of the Molad. So, it's Eidei Sheker. Rashi continues, V'libi nokfi. My heart is pounding, so to speak. Is knocking, if you will. Midikatane babraita pa'amim shaba ba'arucha pa'am shaba b'ktsara ve'in lashon biat aruka uktsara nofel kan shar mitoch kotna yeshana hi nichseit mibnei ma'arav kshehi b'mizrach lifnei chidusha. Essentially, he says, well, even though it's true, the Gemara does say that there's 24 hours where you don't see the moon. And that's what my Rabbeim explained. That's what Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri meant when he said they're clearly Eidei Sheker. I'm still wondering about this because there is a braita that says sometimes it comes after elongated and sometimes it comes in a short way. And what is the arrival with length and with or being short? What does that have to do with anything? The duration. What does that mean? Right. So it seems to be if it's a shorter cycle, maybe it would be more visible at a certain other time. Right, it will be covered from the people in the west when it's in the east, eastern sky. The people who live in the west, they'll see it covered in the eastern sky right before it is renewed. V'nirali dalan chadasha ha'idu ve'edei sheker. The Kamar Rabbi Yochanan, they must have really been talking about the new moon. And the reason why the Eidei Sheker, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri called them Eidei Sheker, Fishenim maheret larutz b'yud bet shaot shebiyom mitoch hamizrach letoch hamarav. So it can't be that it was both the new moon seen in the morning and seen in the evening. Something doesn't add up. It must be that they were lying, because that's the declaration that clearly they were lying. So something here must have happened. Now go to Bach. Upamim shaba b'derech tzara. Where are we? Toch ha'ma'arav. V'shapir nofel kan. V'shapir nofel kan. Pamim shaba b'chulei b'soeh. Lavo upamim shaba b'derech tzara. Okay. V'al zeh ka'amar pamim shaba b'derech haru v'shoch lavo. Meaning that's what it really meant. That sometimes it comes with a longer orbit, if you will, and sometimes with a shorter orbit. Some of the other Rishonim, as you might imagine, say we don't really understand what Rashi's talking about with the longer, the shorter. It seems strange that this should be, but Rashi was trying to understand how could the Eidim have arrived and said, we saw it in Shachris and we saw it in Mariv, when they know that someone's going to say it's Eid Sheker. More mysterious is the next sentence, Kshabbo, the Gemara. Kshabbo li'avne.
Wait, doesn't nofel mean to fall?
Yeah.
So it fell out on. It said nofel shaper nofel kan hamayim shekach. So does that mean that it? What is shaper?
It falls. The Tochmav. It falls well here. Sometimes it arrives in this sky and it waits to come, and sometimes it comes much quicker.
Gotcha.
But the strangeness is that Tsar and Aruka make it sound like it has to do with length, not with time. So the point is maybe it's a longer or a shorter orbit. There are different theories try to understand what Rashi is driving at. But the reason why Rashi is pushing it, and he says, well, his Rabbeim already said, since the Gemara says earlier you need 24 hours between for the time period of the Molad, So it can't be in the same day. They saw the old moon in the morning and the new moon at night.
Right.
The Rashi's trying to, as they say, tighten it up. Yeah, maybe it was special. It was a special, and in the special circumstance, it kind of did work out that way. But Rabbi Yochanan says they're 8 sheker. Shabbat Yavne, back in the Gemara, when they came to Yavne, Kiblan Rabban Gamliel, he accepted them. Strange. And then two witnesses another time came and they said, we saw it. Leil 29 going into 30. We saw it. So the Beit Din is Makadosh the Chodesh. And the next night, you know what happens? They can't see the moon at all. But it can't go backwards. If you see the moon, a sliver on the first night of Rosh Chodesh, the next night is going to be a little bit larger. So the next night, nobody could find it. It was not found. So it was obvious that they had lied. But nonetheless, V'kiblan Rabban Gamliel. Rabban Gamliel accepted them. Amar Rabbi Dosib and Horkanus, Eidei Sheker Hain. They are lying. Clearly, it's a beautiful, if strangely graphic expression. How are they making some kind of a testimony that a woman who already gave birth, i.e. to the new month, is the next day has her belly between her teeth? It means that she's still such a large stomach that it's like it's high up, it's like in her mouth. That's how big it is. She can't be pregnant the day after she gave birth.
The baby hasn't even dropped yet, right?
No, the point is that right. The baby is born, so you can't say the next day the baby didn't even drop yet, let alone that it was born. It doesn't work like that. So Dosei ben Harkana says clearly there was a mistake. If you were Mekadosh the Chodesh today and now tonight, no one sees the moon. It's a perfectly clear night.
It just be a cloudy night.
Presumably, it wasn't a cloudy night. Otherwise, he wouldn't really have much of a claim. They would just say to him, it was a cloudy night. But that's not what happened. So now look what happened next. Amar lo Rabbi Yehoshua. Rabbi Yehoshua said to his friend, right? I'm sorry, I skipped out Rashi here. Look at Rashi. We have to do Rashi first. We saw it in its time b'yom shloshim. V'leil shloshim shemitzapim beitin va'am shtei megula v'yirua me'achisha edim re'ua b'yom lo nira lahem. You would think that night they were, of course, going to see it, but they didn't. So what happened next? Go to the Gemara in the Mishnah. So Rabbi Yehoshua said to Rabbi Dosei and Harkanas, Roy ani advarecha. I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense. Meaning there was a major error here. By accident, they accepted the testimony, which clearly was a lie. Shalach lo Rabban Gamliel. Rabban Gamliel sent the message to Rabbi Yehoshua. Gozrani alecha. Turned out it was Elul when this happened, going into Rosh Hashanah. Rabbi Gamliel was the Nasi. He said to Rabbi Yehoshua, Gozrani alecha shtavo etzli v'makelcha uv'ma'otecha b'yom kippurim shachal liot b'cheshboncha. I command you to come to me holding, your cell phone and your car keys on the day you think is Yom Kippur, meaning your staff and your bag of money. On the day you think is Yom Kippur, meaning I'm going to force you to publicly demonstrate that you accept my authority. Okay. Halach umatzo Rabbi Akiva Meitzar. So Rabbi Akiva went. Rabbi Akiva, by the way, in a lot of these stories, is the one who's trying to console people when they're in trouble. The same story happens in Gemara Bava Metzia with Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkanus, with also a story there. It actually involves Rabbi Yehoshua as well. So here he comes to Yehoshua to try. He sees that he's distressed. So Amar lo, yesh lilmod shekol ma she'asur ben Gamliel asui. Whatever he did, I can teach you, says Rabbi Akiva, that anything that he did, it's done already. Shenamar, because the Torah says, Eila moadei Hashem mikrai kodesh asher tikru otam. But how do you read it? Otam, no vav, just a cholam. So otam, atem, shtikru atem. You could also, that's the drasha. Bein bismanan, bein shelo bismanan. Whether in the right time or not in the right time. Ein li moadot ela elu. It's as if Hashem says, I only have these holidays. Meaning the holidays that you, the Jewish people, declare based on when you make Rosh Chodesh. Balo eitzel Rabbi Dosei ben Harkanus. So he went to Rabbi Dosei ben Harkanus and he said, Marlo, im boyin anu ladun achar beitin of Rabbi Gamliel. If you want to unbake the cake of whatever it is Rabbi Gamliel did, you want to start putting him under judicial review and second guessing what he decided. Tzrichin anu ladun achar kol beitin ubeitin shamad mimot Moshe ve'ad achshav. We'll have to go back and unravel all the batei din previously, because maybe they made a mistake. Shenamar vayal Moshe v'Aaron nadav ve'avihu v'shvim ziknei Yisrael. As the Torah says, when it was time for Matan Torah in Perek Chav Daled, when Moshe Rabbeinu goes up onto Har Sinai for the 40 days, says that he went up with Aaron and Nadav and Avihu and the 70 Zikanim. V'lam lo nitparshu shmotan shel Zikanim. Why aren't the 70 elders mentioned by name? Elolamed, to teach us shekol shlosha sh'amdu beitin al Yisrael harehu kebeitino shel Moshe Anytime three get up and they establish a Beit Din, it's like the Beit Din of Moshe. Natal maklo maltov bi'ado. So Rabbi Yehoshua accepted what this explanation that Rabbi Akiva gave him, and accepted the authority of Rabbi Gamliel. He took his staff and his money in his hand, and he went to Yavne. V'halach liyavne etzer Rabbi Gamliel b'yom shachal Yom Kippurim liot b'cheshbono. And the time that he himself thought was really Yom Kippur, Rabbi Gamliel thought it was already 11 Tishrei, but Rabbi Yehoshua thought that was his 10 Tishrei was 9 Tishrei, and this was really 10 Tishrei. So Gamliel said, on the day that it's already Ois Yom Kippurim, trust me, you're going to come. He felt bad. It didn't matter. But when he came in the room into the court, Amad Rabban Gamliel unashako al rosho. When he came in, Rabban Gamliel stood up and he kissed him on the head. Amar lo bo b'shalom Rabbi v'talmidi. Come in peace, my Rabbi and my student. Rabbi b'chachma, you are my Rabbi in wisdom. V'talmidi shekibalta et dvarai. And my student, because you accepted what I said. Wow. Don't worry, there's a Gemara on this to unpack what just happened over here. Now look at Rashi, by the way. Roa ani et dvarecha la'aber et chodesh means that Rabbi Yehoshua wanted to push it off by a day. Yeah. Okay. Halach matzah Rabbi Kiva Rabbi Yehoshua. Meitzar al she hanasi gazar alav l'chalel Yom Kippurim. Asher tikra'u b'kriyat beitin. Whatever is going to be declared. Tikru means kriya, like a declaration. Baal Rabbi Yehoshua Eitz Rabbi Dosa, and they had that conversation. We read that as well. Lamanin Parsim Ushmotan. Why aren't the names mentioned? She'im ba adam laduna achar beitin shebiyamav v'lomar v'chi beitin zeh k'Moshe v'Aaron k'Eldad u'Meidad omrim lo shema chashuv hu kishlosha min hasha'ar lo nitparsh shmotan. So if a person will come and they'll start to try to undermine the Beit Din on their own time, they'll say, is this Beit Din on the level of Moshe and Aaron, on the level of Eldad and Meidad? Some of the Achronim want to know, what was Eldad and Meidad getting inserted in here? Because they weren't, right? So when are they in the story? But okay, right? So some person would try to do that. So they would tell that person, are you on the par with these three? From within the rest of these people, their 70 names weren't even mentioned, but clearly they were able to be with Moshe and Aaron and everybody else. So whenever you have three that get up, we assume they're like those 70 whose names were not mentioned, but they deserve to be to have that standing. The Gemara explains, Tanya, Amar lahem Rabban Gamliel Chachamim, Kach mikublanu beit avi abba. This is what I learned from my Elder Zeta's house. Yeah, this is like the family tradition. Don't forget, Rabban Gamliel is direct descendant of Hillel. Is okay. Question already? Right? The remainder. Yeah. So this is what I learned from Beit Avi Abba. Pa'amim sheba ba'aruka, upamim sheba b'ktsara. Exactly the words that Rashi had just quoted from a Braita. Is actually he got it from his Gemara. Sometimes it comes long, sometimes it comes short. And the question is, what does long and short mean? Rabbi Yochanan, my time at debate Rabbi. What's the rationale of the house of Rabbi? Rabbi Donatzi is also a descendant of Rabbi Rabban Gamliel, the Avner. So what is this lashon? Dichtiv asa yorech lamoadim shemesh yada mivo'o. Made the moon for the seasons or the appointed times. Better appointed times. Really, it's not seasons. Appointed times, and the sun knows its path. Shemesh hu yada mivo'o yorech lo yada mivo'o. The sun knows its path, but the moon doesn't know its path. It doesn't literally mean these objects are animate. It means a person knows basically there's going to be a sunrise and a sunset. I don't know if you've been paying attention. If you go in a minyan early in the morning, the sun is not rising there. It's rising there, right? So if you're standing facing you're facing east. Right. It's very much south. It's almost like it's getting up in the south sky. Right. But at the high noon now, the moon is not here. It's there. Pretty far away because it's making a very small curve over planet. That's in this part of the planet. That's why it's winter. Yeah. That's the sun, but it's very predictable. In the summer, it's going to be over there, and it'll be due east. Exactly due east on what day? The day of the equinox. Yeah? Each time the equinox, that's when it comes. That's when it arrives there in either direction. Point being that when we talk about sun, most people can figure out how the sun works, but the moon. much more as we've been learning, it's much more complicated. Luckily, if you have an iPhone, not that I'm getting a royalty from them, you go on the weather app and you'll see the moon with all the phases, and you can cycle through it and you start getting a sense. Oh, okay, on this date, this is what it looks like. It looks like, and how it changes, and how it looks at the molad v'chule v'chule, which doesn't look like anything. So Rabbi Chia chazi l'sihara dehavikai b'tzafra de'esrim v'tish'a. Rabbi Chia, says the Gemara, it was already in Amora, he saw the moon that was in the morning on the 29th. He saw it, which means that night was not going to be able to be Rosh Chodesh because you need 24 hours. Shakal Kala Patak Bay.
What does Sihara mean?
The moon.
Oh.
So he picked up some kind of a clod of earth or something. Shakal Kala, it's like a piece of dirt, and he threw it. Patak Bay. He shot it at, he threw it at it. Amar. Lord Tabina the Kedushe Bach. Vad Kayamt? Yeah. So Hachazil Ichsi. Get out of here. Now, obviously, Rabbi wasn't actually talking to the moon to do anything. The point is, you're getting a sense of how dependent they were. What is the moon doing here? You're going to mess up the whole calendar. We can't not declare Rosh Chodesh tonight. But obviously, if it was there, they had no choice. They couldn't. So he was throwing like a pebble at it or something. Cut it out. Look at exactly. Look at where are we here? We're in Rashi. Rashi, the Chazal Sihara Yeshana, the old moon. Shakal Kala, Pisat Rigavim. Rigavim are like pieces of earth. Yeah. So he was very upset. Lord Tabina l'kedushayich. Tzrichin anu lasat halal yom tov Rosh Hashanah l'chaser et Elul u'la'ayim al ha'edim l'mari inu bismanu l'kadsho l'malchar va'af al pi shelo ra'u l'fi shaya ibur hachodesh doche et Yom Kippurim etzel Shabbat. So basically, there was pressure. They had to declare that night, Rosh Hashanah, in order to make Elul Chaser, and they're going to have to lean on the witnesses to get to that result. Why? Even though they hadn't actually seen it, right? Rashi's writing this here. Why? Because we're worried about if there's Ibur HaChodesh, then you have a situation where Yom Kippur and Shabbos would be in trouble. It will be Yom Kippur into Shabbos, or Shabbos into Yom Kippur. Like you say in the calendar, Lo Adu Rosh. Now, why is that Lo Adu Rosh? Because the calendar is set up. But why is that important? Because you don't want to have Yom Kippur fall out immediately before, or immediately after Shabbos, and you don't want to have Hoshana Rabbah fall out on a Shabbos. So the calendar is set, but in those days it wasn't. So if it's the wrong day of the week, we're going to be in trouble. Okay. Vat kayam tachi Rashi im tehei near 8 arvit shuv leikachur chodesh lamachar. Right? If you're going to show up at night as well, they're not going to be mekach the chodesh till the very next day. Kedamaran le'el perakam tzarach sheyeh laila v'yom min hachadash. Sheim near 8 yishana le'or chavtet ein mekachin machar the chodesh. If they're already seeing the moon at the 29th in the morning, they're not going to be able to make the next day Rosh Chodesh. Now comes the most beautiful one-line story that you heard, I don't know, 2 years ago in Rosh Hashanah. There's a drush in Rosh Hashanah. Who can remember that far back? But I just love this sentence. Amar le Rabbi Chia, zil le'ein tav, v'katshel yarcha. Go to the place called Ein Tav and be makadosh the Chodesh there. V'shalach li simana. Send me a coded message. What's the coded message? David Melech Yisrael Chai V'Kayim. That's the whole story. It's a very short story. Rabbi sent him to Ein Tav. Why? Rashi. Doeg haya shelo yirananu alav b'nei iro k'sheyikadshanu l'machar lefi shirodi yishana kol yom chavtet. Right? V'silek tlunatam me'alai. So he was worried that where he was living, Rabbi was, he was worried that people had actually seen the old moon in the morning, and he was worried he had to be Mekadosh Chodesh that night. So he sent Rabbi Chia to go to another town. This town, Ein Tav, we think is near Tzipori, and Rabbi lives in the vicinity of Beit She'arim, which is right Tiberia, Beit She'arim, Tzipori. They're all in the same vicinity in northern Israel. So he sent him go to another town, and when you see the new moon, send me a message. David Melech Yisrael Chai V'Kayim. That's the message. Umori Piresh, but my Rebbe, Yeah, why is it coded? It doesn't really make sense. You could say it's coded because it was a rhetorical flourish. It was like a beautiful idea. The beautiful idea is that the kingdom, Malchut Beit David, is compared to the moon. Why? Because it is reflective of divine light. Because it is waxing and waning. There's times when it's stronger and times when it's weaker. And when it becomes its weakest, it becomes strong again. Because there are 15 generations that go from Avram Avinu till you get to David HaMelech, and then it goes down from there. It starts to diminish till you get to the Churban. But the second reason resonates very much for me, and it's the other reason. Umori Piresh, my Rabbi explains, says Rashi, Shegazru Gzeira Bimakomo Shliyakadshu at a Chodesh. There was a Gzeira in that time, in Rabbi Yehuda Nasi's day, forbidding them from being Makadosh L'Chodesh. Sound familiar?
By the Romans. Yeah.
By the Romans. By the Romans. By the Romans. And therefore, what is the code? When we have no power and no kingdom and no dominion, and all we have is that we can secretly be Makadosh L'Chodesh, we can affirm that someday Mashiach will come. Now the moon is very small, and our power in this world is small. Bnei Yisrael, Klal Yisrael is nimshal to Eretz, to the Levana, and we have our moments, waxing and waning. So, and waxing again. And that's why it's the Kiddush Levana. David Melchazal, Rashi, nimshal keLevana shne'emar bo, kiso keshemesh negdi, kayerech ikon olam. Yeah, the idea that David HaMelech is nimshal like the Levana, and like the moon that is established forever. Right? What is established forever? Established but dynamic, coming and going, gaining power, losing power. Cycles of Jewish history. Now, the application right here, Hanukkah, happy Hanukkah. We have a Yom Tov. We're in the middle of the Yom Tov. There's a Rosh Chodesh. So we have a tradition that one of the things the Greeks, the Malchut Harusha'ah of Yavan sought to do was to undermine our calendrical system. If you don't have your calendar, you don't have any holidays anymore. You have chaos. No one knows when to come and go. And of course, one thing to go after the location of the Beit HaMikdash, but if you've taken away the calendar, nobody knows when to go to the Beit HaMikdash. There's no time to go because it's chaotic. So it was another front in the diminution and maybe the destruction, God forbid, of the Jewish calendar. And that's at play. Now the coded message is, you can't send a direct message saying, we saw the new moon, be Makadosh L'Chodesh. It's against the law. Right. So what's the secret code? David Melech Yisrael Chai V'Kayim. And the Sfas Emes says that he sent it to a place called Ein Tav, because Ein Tav is the Aramaic for Ayin Tova. Told him you have to have a good eye. You have to look at things in a positive light. Right? Only this, by the way, Sfas Emes, before you say Chassidish Rebbe, he wrote literally Perushim on Shas, the Sfas Emes. And Ger was the most learned among the groups of Hasidim in Europe, for sure. They're the ones in the end that made the Daf Yomi popularized, because the Ger Rebbe, okay, Daf Yomi, that's when it got started. Not the Sfas Emes, but his son, the Imre Emes, started it. Rosh Hashanah, 1923 or 24, whenever it was, when that happened. So Ein Tav, you should have a good eye. You should look with a good eye. And this Rosh Chodesh happened to be of Rosh Hashanah as well. Davka of Rosh Hashanah. You know, can't be Mamlech David HaMelech, we can be Mamlech Hashem, but you got to go to this place called Ein Tav, and there you should look at things with a good eye and see the positive, even in our predicament, David Melech Yisrael Chavikayim. Okay, so that was one Hanukkah piece, but there's more. It's not exactly Hanukkah, you understand? I'm just relating it. The Gzeira is on the Chodesh. When the enemy tries to do that, they know what they're doing because they understand Judaism from the inside. If they can destroy the calendar, then you destroy the Yom Tovim. So we have to safeguard it. Next, Tana Rabbanan. Pam achat nikashru shamayim ba'avim v'nirei dmut levana b'asrim v'tisha l'chodesh kisvar ma'am lomar rosh chodesh u'biksha beitin l'kadsho. So there were clouds in the sky one time, and they saw it. They thought it was the moon on the 29th. So they thought, oh, it's Rosh Chodesh. So they went to the Beit Din to ask. We could be Makadosh. Amar lahem Rabban Gamliel. Kach mekablan mebeit Avi Abba. Ein chidush shlevana pechuta me'esrim v'tisha yom u'mechza u'shnei shlishi sha'a v'ayin gimel chalakim. It's also known as 29, 12, 793. Mm-hmm. All right? A month is 12 days, 29 days, 12 hours, and 793 chalakim. There are 1,080 chalakim in an hour, 793 chalakim added to the 12. Rabban Gamliel said, since I know that that's the case, we haven't passed that vote, it's not going to work. We know it won't work. It can't be Rosh Chodesh, even though everyone's seeing it, because I have a Masorah. The month can never be shorter than that amount. 29 days, 12 hours, 793 chalakim, which is actually pretty precise actually. And on that very day, V'oto hayom meta imo shel ben Zaza v'spida Rabban Gamliel hesped gadol. Lo mipnei sheru'iyah lekach, el kadei sheyedu ha'am shelo kidshu beitin lechodesh. So the mother of so and so died. I just don't know anything about Ben Zaza. She died, and Rabbi Gamliel himself gave a very long eulogy on Rosh Chodesh. What do you not do? You don't give a eulogy on Rosh Chodesh. So he gave a very long eulogy. So everyone would say, "Oh, a long eulogy he gave. Well, that was really long. Give a eulogy today, Taka. Wouldn't give a eulogy. It was Rosh Chodesh because it wasn't Rosh Chodesh. He kept them. He kept them all for a long time. Okay, imagine being the mother of Ben Zaza. What a chus she has. Maybe she wasn't really worthy, but she was worthy for that purpose. Okay. Halach Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva went. And he found him Meitzar. He found him upset. Rabbi Yehoshua was upset. Ibaylahu. Me Meitzar Rabbi Akiva Meitzar or Rabbi Yehoshua Meitzar? Who was upset? Rabbi Akiva or Rabbi Yehoshua? Who was feeling aggrieved in this story? Tashma Tanya. Halach Rabbi Akiva umatzaol Rabbi Yehoshua kshahu Meitzar. Okay, it's really Rabbi Yehoshua. We saw that really in the Mishnah, but it's a bit ambiguous. Maybe Rabbi Akiva felt bad that Rabbi Gamliel was strong-arming him. No, it was Rabbi Yehoshua felt bad. Amar lo Rabbi, mipnei ma ata meitzar. So Rabbi Akiva said to his Rabbi, to Rabbi Yehoshua, the two Rabbeim of Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Yehoshua and Rabbi Eliezer. So he says to Rabbi Yehoshua, his Rabbi, later on he'll go console in Baba Metzia, Nuntat, he'll be consoling his other Rabbi, Rabbi Eliezer ben Hyrcanus. From the story of Loba Shamayim, Tanrosh Shalachnai. That's the denouement of that story, maybe the climax, depending on you look at it. Here he's going to help his Rabbi, Rabbi Yehoshua. In both cases, by the way, it's where their Rabbi stood against an authority. Rabbi Eliezer was outnumbered, remember? And here, he's, you could say, outgunned. He's got, Rabbi Gamliel got bigger guns. Rabbi Gamliel's the Nasi, and Rabbi Yehoshua is not. So he told him, yeah. Samarlo Akiva. Ra'ui lo she'ipol lamata yud bet chodesh val yigzar alav gzerazu. It would be better if that man was bedridden for 12 months than this should happen to him. He wasn't talking about Rabbi Gamliel. He's talking about himself. He don't want to curse himself. But he said, I'd rather fall deathly ill than have to break Yom Kippur. I'd fall deathly ill. It would be the worst thing in my life. So Amar le Rabbi Tasheni lomar lefanecha davar echad shlimadatani. The Talmud is telling the Rabbi, do you remember you taught us this? So I'm going to remind you a lesson you taught us. Rabbi Akiva says to Amarlo, Rabbi Yehoshua said to him, Amarlo, Amor, say. So Amarlo, Rabbi Akiva answered him, Hareyu Omer, Atem. You have three distinct psukim. Daber el b'nei Seva marta alehem mo'adei Adonai asher tikru otam mikra'ei kodesh eilehem mo'adai. So you have the word otam in that pasuk. That's in Vayikra Chav Gimel bet. Then you have Eile Moadei Adonai Asher Tikru Otam Mikra'ei Kodesh La'akriv Ishel Adonai Ola Umincha Zevach Unesachim Dvar Yom B'Yomo. Same parak later on, and when you look at those psukim, right, you realize, and you put one more pasuk with it. Eile Moadei Adonai Mikra'ei Kodesh Asher Tikru Otam B'Moadam. 3 times in Parak Chav Gimel that you have the word otam, aleph, taf, mem, which could also easily be read atem. Harehu omer otam. Gimel pa'amim otam or atem. So it's what does it mean? Atem afilu shogegim, atem afilu mezidin, atem afilu mutin. It says it 3 times to tell you, even if you made a mistake, even if you did it on purpose, even if you're totally wrong and it's not objectively the truth. B'lashon hazeh amar lo. This is how Rabbi Yehoshua answered him. Akiva nichamtani. Akiva, you just consoled me. Beautiful story, no?
Yeah. And it was after this that they kicked out Rabbi Gamliel.
Wasn't after this. It wasn't after, I mean, it's a debate about exactly when that story happened, because that story, that's the story in Brachot. So it's not clear, because afterward it seems that Rabban Gamliel was reinstated. Is this after it was reinstated, or is this before the story happened? It's not clear. It's not clear historically which one came first. Balo eitz Rabbi Dosa ben Hyrcanus, Tan Rabbanan. Loma lo nitparshu shmotam shel zakenim halalu. I'm sorry, I just realized I forgot to do the Tosfot that I wanted to do. Here's Zil Ein Tav v'Kadshe. Can we go back?
Yep.
Okay, can we go back to Tosfot from that story before we go to the next part of the Gemara? Zila Ein Tav V'Kadshe, Tosfot. Sham Hayu Kvuim Lekadesh Et HaChodesh. And Ein Tav is where they were established, they were fixed to establish, to sanctify the new month. Kedida B'Psikta. But Pasuk Tiku B'Chodesh Shofar, when it says, sound of the Chodesh, the Shofar, Lama Beitim Mekachin Chodesh Be'Ein Tav, why in Beit Tav? Lefi Shehu Beit Havad. That's the place where they would meet. Amar Kodesh Baruch Hu, Beit Moed Shel Kol HaOlam. Right? The land of Israel is actually the place of the meeting for the whole world. Shenemar Ki Mitzion Teitzei Torah. V'amrina b'Yerushalmi, Kishem Shetokim B'Yavne, Kach Tokim Be'Ein Tav, Mashma Shahaya Sham Beitim Kavua, Dumya D'Yavne. There are two Batei Din. One was in Yavne, the other one was in Ein Tav. And Rabbi Yunaz told him, go to the one in Ein Tav, maybe because of a decree, maybe because he was worried people saw the moon that morning and they would contradict his declaration that it was a new month. Back to the Gemara. So Balo Eitzer Rabbi Dosef ben Harkanus, Tana Rabban, Lamalunit Pasha Shmodav Shozakenim Halalu. Why are these names not explicated? Shlo Yomar Adam, Ploni Kemoshe Aaron, Ploni Kenadav Aviu, Ploni Keeldad Meidad. It's their names are anonymous in order to forestall someone comparing people in later generations to these greats of the Jewish nation. V'omer, and it says in the pasuk, Vayomer Shmuel Ha'am, Hashem Asher Asa et Moshe et Aaron. V'omer, right? The same section in Parak Yud Aleph, in Parak Yud Bet rather in Shmuel Aleph, right? That they said that you have the pasuk tells us that he spoke to the nation and he's told them initially, Vayomer Shmuel Am, Hashem Asher Asa et Moshe et Aaron, Vasher Hala etchem et Avoteichem Eretz Mitzrayim, and then Vayishlach et Hashem et Yerubal ve'et Bedan ve'et Yiftach ve'et Shmuel ve'yatzel etchem Yarei vechem Misaviv v'teishu Betach. So one pasuk references Moshe and Aaron. The next pasuk further along, is 5 pasukim later, it seems to have the same structure, and yet it mentions these other people, Yerubal and Bedan and Yiftach and Shmuel. Yerubal ze Gidon. V'lamani kra Shmuel Yerubal she'asam ariva im habal. Gidon, one of the shoftim. Bedan ze Shimshon. V'lamani kra Shmuel Bedan da'ati midan. He came from the area of Dan. Yeah. Yiftach kemashma'o. Yiftach is exactly as you expected it. Yiftach is as is known. Is the name Yiftach. Yeah. Yiftach Giladi. V'omer Moshe v'Aaron nechon avu Shmuel v'korei Shmuel. We know that pasuk very well from Tehillim Tzadik Tet. We read it on Friday night. Shaka lakativ shlosha kale olam ki shlosha chamure olam. The three lightweights, Yerubal, Bedan, and Yiftach, are compared to Moshe and Aaron. They're put on and Shmuel, put on the same on a par with each other, right? The shlosha kale olam ki shlosha chamure olam. L'marlach, to teach you. Yerubal bedoro ke Moshe bedoro, Bedan bedoro ke Aaron bedoro, Yiftach bedoro ke Shmuel bedoro. L'lamdecha shafilu kashu b'kalam v'nman aparnas al tzibur harehu ke aver she'abirim. It's a very beautiful Gemara, and you've seen it in many shiurim and drushes. This is the headquarters. There's a parity between these two. Why? So that you'll realize that whoever's in your generation, that's what you got. As soon as they're made into the leader of the generation, they might be the worst of the worst. It doesn't matter. The lightest of the light, not worst of the worst. The lightest of the light, but now they're the mightiest of the mighty. From weak to strong, because they were appointed. The Omer, Uvata el kohanim alavim v'al shofet asher yiyeh bayamim ahem. The pasuk says in Sefer Dvarim, Perak Yud Zayin, right? You should go to the Levium, the Kohanim, the Levium, and the judge who are in your time. V'chitala al da'atcha she'adam holech etzel hadayim shelo haya b'yamav. Yeah. How are you going to go? Were you going to judge not from your time? So ha'ein lecha leilech etzel ela etzel shofet shebiyamav. Rather, it means you have to go to whoever the leadership is, the gedolim, the shoftim in your day. Ve'omer al tomar ma haya sha'yamim harishona hayu tovim me'ela. And the pasuk referring to this is, don't spend your whole life saying, in previous generations they had real Talmud Chachamim. Today we don't have any. In previous generations they had real Dayanim. Today we don't have any. Previous generations there was leadership. Now we don't have any. Whatever the generation gets, that was what's supposed to be, and that's who the leadership is. And we don't second guess and say, you don't make the grade. That's what the Gemara says here. And if you go to Rashi, go to the previous page, Rashi on the bottom. Atem, Shlosh Zmanin Ktiv, Asher Tikru Otam, the Parshat Shor or Kesev, the Kari Beit Tikru Atem. Shogigin, Me'ilei and kisvurin shu ra'ui lihit aber v'toin. Right? Even they make a mistake. Right? They think it could be, but what's mutin? Even if they're fooled and they make a mistake. Shel yomar adam snol sal beitin shebiyamav v'chi ploni uploni kamoshe v'Aaron she'eshmalo. Who are these two clowns? They're not like Moshe and Aaron. That I should listen to them, right? She'eshmalo achshav shelonit parshu. Now that the 70 judges with them, their names aren't mentioned. Emorlo im eino kamoshe v'Aaron hareu ke'achlim yisayz zekenim she'encha yedei amihem. If the judges in your day are not in love with Moshe and Aaron, which they're probably not, so then you'll say they're on the level of those 70 judges who are anonymous.
That's why they have Eldad and Medad, because Eldad and Medad were afterwards.
They were afterwards, but they're named.
Right.
Oh, but they're on a lower level.
They're on a lower level.
Okay, very nice. Thank you. That's great. Thank you. Come up with that on your own? That's good.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. That's a very nice idea. Wow, good. It's a step down in the lifetime of Moshe and Aaron.
Right.
Eldad and Medad, right, who are mitnabim b'machane, etc. And okay, good. V'omer Hashem asher asad Moshe v'Aaron. Rashi Shmuel Hanavi Amar Yisrael. Hakadosh Baruch Hu asal lechem nisim al yidei shusha zakenim alalu. Moshe v'Aaron, Yerubal uBedan v'Yiftach uShmuel. They're nisim by these people, but the nisim of the time Moshe and Aaron are not the nisim of Bedan, Yerubal and Bedan and Yiftach. This is not okay, but still. Next page. V'omer. B'sefer Tehillim Moshe v'Aaron v'Chonav v'Shmuel v'Korei Shemo Korim El Hashem v'Hu Ya'anem Hari Sheshakal Hakatuv Shmuel im Moshe v'Aaron. They're put on the same level. Uvaktuvim Harishonim Katuv Yerubal Bedan v'Yiftach im Moshe v'Aaron uShmuel Shlosha Kalim im Shlosha Chamurim. They're all linked together, and the point is that whoever you have in your generation, that's what you have. Ha'in l'cha leilech. Hari limedcha akatuv kan she'en lecha levakish elo shofet she'haya be'amecha. It was instead of spending all your time wistfully reflecting on the loss, recognize there's someone in this generation, and that's who the leadership is. Some of us might have trouble with this, but that's what it says.
Yeah.
You could say you need katnu adora, but you can't say it to the point where, and therefore there's no one running things anymore. It's over. Judaism's over. We're going to second guess these people because they're not on the level. I knew Mickey Mantle, and you know Mickey Mantle, that kind of thing. I'm not using Rabbi's name, so I'm using Havdol, but it doesn't work like that. Whoever you have in your generation, that's the shofet. That's what the Torah is telling you. Says the Gemara, Asher yeh b'yimim mahem. That's what you have. That's what you have. Oh, what used to be the earlier days were much better than these, right? The pasuk from Kohelet, right? Because the pasuk says, "Al tomar me haya shayamim harishonim hayu tovim me'ele ki lo mechochma sha'alta al zeh." It's not out of wisdom that you asked that. You asked it rhetorically out of cynicism. Let me just finish one more line. Rashi, ki lo mechachma sha'alta al zeh lefi shador hayu tovim tzadikim mina achronim lefi chayu hayom rishonim tovim me'ele she'av shayu achronim k'rishonim. Don't say that. Don't say that. Don't. You can't live like that. You might think it. You can't live like that. You can't walk around saying that. Question?
Is there, so that's Shalom, the people, whoever they got to be in charge, are really not qualified?
Well, it has happened in the history of Judaism. Yeah, and that was happening when the Kohanim were being taken over by Hellenized Jews.
Right.
And people started realizing this cannot be our leadership. There's a high priest named Jason.
Yeah.
And a high priest named Menelaus.
Yeah.
So how did that happen? It's because they were buying and selling it, and that's part of the rebellion of the Chashmonaim is against that.
Kohanim Gedolim were there.
Yeah, like over 300.
Oh.
Yeah, in the Second Temple period, over 300. Yeah. So what does that mean? It means there was a high turnover rate because they kept dying or being replaced or being supplanted, or someone else bought it. It was a marketplace. Huh? Yeah, a lot of stories like that. But the point is that's what sectarian, But however, there was never a generation of Rabbanim from the time of the Masorah and others of Torah Shabbat Peh, where you would say, well, that generation is unworthy and we don't have any leadership. Part of our Emunah, turns out, is Emunah Chachamim, and that Emunah Chachamim continues here to the end of this parak, which we will be Messiahim tonight. Happy Hanukkah. Natal Maklu Ma'otav. Biyado, he took his walking stick, which is muktzah, his money, which is muktzah, in his hand. The very fact, by the way, he's carrying his walking stick and his money is would be a muktzah problem, but for the fact that it's Yom Kippur, which has all the dinim of Shabbos, so it was really a hotzah issue, and it's a pretty public thing because you're carrying it. Okay, so he carried it. Tanu Rabbanan, Kevan Shira Oto, Amad Mikiso Unushako Al Rosho, Amarlo Shalom Alecha Rabbi V'Talmidi, Rabbi Shlim Madatani Torah Barabim V'Talmidi Shani Gozer Alecha Gzera V'Atam Makaima Ketalmid. So. Here, right here, it's an elongated version of what we already saw previously. When he saw him, he got up from his chair. He kissed Rabbi Yehoshua. Rabbi Gamliel kissed Rabbi Yehoshua on his head, and he said to him, "Peace be upon you, my Rabbi and my student. My Rabbi, because you taught me Torah publicly, and my Talmud, because I placed a decree upon you using my authority, and you uphold it like a student." Ketalmud. Ashrei Hador shagdolim nishmayim liktanim kavachomer ktanim ligadolim. So, for praiseworthy or fortunate is the generation where the greater ones, the greater Talmid Chachamim, listen to the smaller ones, and to kal v'chomer that the smaller ones, if the smaller ones listen to the greater ones, the Gemara recoils. Kal v'chomer chiyuvahu. It's a chiyuv that the Ketanim have to listen to Gedolim. That's how it works. That's the whole system. The lower level people have to listen to the Gedolim. So Elam mitoch shagedolim yishmaim l'ktanim. Nosim Ketanim kal v'chomer be'atzman. From the fact that the Gedolim are willing to listen to the arguments and the thoughts, and they have respect for those who are lesser than they're not dismissive and derisive of the lower level Talmidei Chachamim. On account of that, the lower level Talmidei Chachamim make a kal v'chomer for themselves. If they have respect for me like that, I need to have respect for them. What's curious and amazing all at the same time, the Gemara said, but what about the chiyuv? There's the chiyuv and there's human nature. Mm-hmm. So the Gemara concludes by saying the deference that the Gedolim had for the the smaller, the lower level Talmidei Chachamim was then reciprocated. But where did it flow from? From the sources of authority. The higher, the Gedolim, were not dismissive and derisive of the Hamon Am rabbis. They thought they didn't think they were Gedolim like them, but they didn't think they were FS. Mm-hmm. And as a result, the lower level rabbis felt a certain sense of a certain sense. They felt the commitment, and they felt the whatever you want to call it, the loyalty to them. That's how this Hadron Allah im Einan Makirin. That's the end of the second parak, and look how it ended with this whole what seems like a Gadata. But what's this about? It's about the authority of the Chachamim, and it's telling you that even among the Chachamim, these issues were complicated and sometimes fractious, and someone had to lay down the law because otherwise the whole system would fall apart. And isn't the power of the Beit Din, more than anything else, more than any court case they could make, any psak halacha on an object, is this chametz, is it not? By the way, there could be mistakes. The Torah talks about the possibility that the Beit Din makes a mistake. But in one realm, they have ultimate control, and it is the most ethereal, it's not tangible, and yet the most determinative of all the Jews' lives: time, calendar, Bezdin, right? And what's this Yom Tov that we're now at the zenith of? The Yom Tov that has a bracha, Asher Kiddusanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel chanuka. Ask the Gemara in Chav Gimel and Masachet Shabbat v'heichan tzivanu. Where exactly is this mitzvah? And it gives two answers. Answer number one, lo tasur. Lo tasur. Doesn't use Achar Rabbi Latot. Lo tasur. The pasuk from Parak Yud Zayin in Sefer Dvarim, the authority of the Chachamim of the Beit Din to enact new takanot, new holidays, whatever they want. That's what they decide. That's what's going to be. It's not a question of majority rule. It's a question of the power of the Chachamim to legislate. And the second source, quoted right there, Gemara Shabbat Daf Chav Gimel, Sha'al avicha v'yagedcha zikanecha v'yomru lach. Ask your father, and he will tell you, your elders, and they will explain it to you. Yeah, something along those lines. Moriv Rabbi Lichtenstein Zatzal pointed out, one is juridical. It's the legal imprimatur of the Chachamim, and they set the course and the tone. Asher Kiddushan Mitzvotav. We thank you and we bless you, God, our God, the Master of the universe, the King of the world, Melech HaOlam, who has commanded us and sanctified us, through His mitzvah, and He commanded us through the mitzvah of lighting Hanukkah candles. But He never gave them such a mitzvah in the Torah. He gave them to listen to Chachamim. And this Yom Tov, more than any other holiday, because it doesn't have a book, because it doesn't have really a makor in the Chumash. There's not even a hint in the Torah, right? There's no drushes like that. By the by, it's not in the Mishnayot, save for one reference in Bikurim. You can bring the olives all the way until Hanukkah. That's what it mentions. That's what you got. There's no other mention. It's held out on purpose. We were talking about this the other night in the Shir, last Sunday night. The whole point is it's the Yom Tov, more than any other Yom Tov, of the Torah Sheba'al Peh. And that's why you have Kiddush HaChodesh taking place in Nitin Rinin in Hanukkah. Maybe they want to make an 8-day festival. Why don't you make it in the middle of the month? Or you'll tell me, Chaf Hey Kislev symmetrical. Okay, I got it. Fine. So back it up and make Chaf Hey Kislev the 8th day. No, that's when the war ended. I hear you. Pretty big coincidence, no? That it's 25, and some years, by the way, this yesterday exists, and some days yesterday doesn't exist. There's no third. This year there's a 30th day. I was talking with Yudis. When's the Yurtzeit? Right? Is the Yurtzeit the last day of Hanukkah? Well, not this year. How come? Because this year it's a 2-day Rosh Chodesh. Some years it's a 1-day Rosh Chodesh. Who made that up? That's already a calendar we have set. But back in the day, it was even more up for grabs. It had to do with, not up for grabs, it was the determination of the Beit Din HaGadol in Yerushalayim. And one of the great pieces of the legacy that we have from them is Davka, every time we're lighting those candles, is as much a declaration of Emunat Chachamim as it is in the Ribono Shel Olam for all the Nisim that he did and does for us. So, Happy Hanukkah. Happy Hanukkah.
Have a wonderful.
That's it for the shir. Happy Hanukkah.
Okay.